You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It is a busy night of basketball. I'd mention, if you watched the Rockets and the Thunder last night on NBA TV, the Thunder and over 50 again for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has had an MVP type of season. But I'll give credit where credit is due. You watch the Rockets, and not only are they talented, and we'll talk about the talented guys that they have throughout the course of the afternoon, but they had talented guys that didn't play. No Thompson, no Brooks, no Sengun. They all sat out last night. And they were still able to maintain. I don't even think that Green played late. I was looking how many minutes. 25 minutes, I think, in all. Cam Whitmore went 40 minutes, scored 27 points. Reed Shepherd, the rookie from Kentucky, had 31 minutes of hardwood time and scored 25. It'd be interesting to see exactly how they handle that coming up later on tonight. I thought maybe last night they were giving guys some rest because maybe guys were not going to be able to play tonight. And that's why we saw those lineups. But, you know, honestly, they were in the game, and those guys that they had subbed in, I mean, hell, there was one dude out there, I think it was McVay, was knocking down corner threes last night late in the game to keep them within reach. And the guy hadn't suited up and played basically since December. It is an incredibly talented team. Now, if you watch the NBA, you know the NBA, you realize that already. But this is going to be a task for the Pacers coming up later on tonight. You're going to have all hands on deck for this one. And high-level guys, more of the Tyrese Halliburton since the All-Star break that has been exactly what has been necessary for this team. You need that. And he needs to be like that. He has a great responsibility, and that comes with being a max-out presence on a roster. Don't get me wrong, but he's got to lift up everybody else, too. He's got to Pied Piper everybody else down the productive offensive path. So your responsibility is not only to get other guys going, but to also make sure that your offensive output is at the highest level and you can do the same thing. That's exactly how he has played so far since the All-Star break, and that is going to be incredibly necessary coming up later on tonight. Yeah, Rockets a loser last night, 137-128. OKC is just ridiculous with their depth. Like, in terms of this, when Chris Ballard talks about roster competition and all that baloney stuff and you roll your eyes, when they talk about that, if Sam Presti brings that up at Oklahoma City, then that's the truth. These guys all play, and you have to play a certain way. You have to lock in defensively or you don't see court time. And there's some guys that don't get a lot of minutes that will be starters in basically every other place. The Rockets have a lot of those dudes, too. 7 o'clock tonight, again, coverage right here. Pacers TV got you. 6:30. That means I got to go a little extra time tonight, I'm assuming. That's just wonderful. I guess we do have plenty to talk about, so what the hell if there's a night to go a little bit extra? I think this would be the night to go a little bit extra. I want to see the Boilermakers maintain. You want to see them maintain at a high level, and you got Rutgers that's got a couple of dudes on it. It hasn't translated into what they thought it was going to do this season. Don't get me wrong, but you got a couple of dudes on that bad boy. But you want to see Purdue maintain. It's been kind of interesting to see over that 4-game skid They had gone, in a lot of opinions, from basically a 2 seed now down to the end of the 4 seed level. Now, that's if you believe what Lenardi and DeCourcy and Jerry Palm and all those guys say. So you had Purdue on the slide, although still in a very much enviable position, don't get me wrong, but on a slide. Meantime, you have IU on the upward swing. And here's what you want to watch out for later on tonight. You get Oregon. I mean, listen, there should be no need for an alarm bell. It is going to be difficult to play there. And we will talk about how difficult it's going to be to reemerge coming up and end your regular season against Ohio State this weekend. We'll talk about that in a bit. But you don't want to see this IU team revert back to a lot of the circumstances. And again, I know a lot of you want to go here, and I don't blame you. Can you imagine for a moment, especially the way IU has played recently? And by recently, I mean, other than that UCLA game, you win at Michigan State, you beat Purdue, Penn State, Washington, you get Oregon later on tonight. You imagine if for some of these opportunities that they had a swing and a miss late? These guys, simply put, could not close. Had they been able to close anything, where might they be? And we never had an argument that they were without talent, because the talent, individually speaking, was evident. But trying to put all these pieces together, have them fit, and then seeing production from that fit, especially in in-game situations, that had been the struggle. You look back at some of those games where you just think, maybe if you're able to close the door, how much could have been different? You had opportunities at Purdue, certainly at Northwestern, at home against Maryland, at home against Michigan. All these massive swings and misses because you were not able to execute. That is one thing that they're doing far better right now. I thought yesterday I brought up IU in this text. I brought them up in the sense of 3 Hoosier State dudes that recognize, and you have to have a mixture. You have to have these talented, and you want to have a huge bankroll in NIL funding. It's great to have that reservoir, but you also have to have dudes where their heart is on the line with this, and there's understanding with this. And sometimes in any sport, in terms of free agency, which NIL is right now, but in terms of free agency, I mean, you're out there headhunting. That's what you're bringing in, you know, some dude that really doesn't care. He just is he's going to the highest bidder. Yeah, 3 guys that have recognized. But you also have 3 guys that have executed, and what they have done is they have lifted up guys that have been disappointed. Like Miles Rice have been massively disappointing, but recently you can see some redeeming qualities, some aspects that have helped IU out in games. Whether a second-half defensive effort individually against Purdue, you can see these 3 guys, their understanding of what it means to be in that uniform, to play for that school, to be a part of that history, no matter how dusty and old and crusty and archaic you believe it to be, by God, it's still there. It doesn't just poof and disappear. It's still there. And it's still talked about all the time. And it's stuff that you can go back and see. Yeah, I would admit, if you're talking about my era, it's sure as hell hard to go back to the 50s and the 40s and to see anything of substance that you can recognize, but it's easy these days to go back and check out what everybody is talking about. So it's definitely not lost on that program. It is still there. You had 3 guys that recognize it. And I think you had 3 guys that now have transferred their recognition and their higher level of play, even if it's not just in the scoring category or the playmaking category, although Galloway has been that. But 3 guys with understanding. And that has helped lift other guys on this team that maybe hadn't had it. You know, maybe a little bit more worried about the money, You know you're going to be a one and done here. I mean, hell, everybody's a one and done for the most part. And they have played much better. We'll see if they're able to sustain that coming up later on tonight. Here's the thing, too. You don't want to believe that you're already in. You don't want to believe that you're already solidified. You got to play with an edge. That's one thing this team has not done. It has not played until recently with an edge. Man, you got to have an edge. Something's got to piss you off, without having to point the finger at a teammate for half-assing it down the floor. Something else has got to piss you off about that. So I would not expect that in Oregon. You would understand the consequences of on the road, how difficult going out west and playing those two games with those two West Coast partners are. And it's feeling good about where you are. I mean, hell, there's something to be said about what? It feels good when people say good things about you. And it sucks when they don't. And it's much easier to say crappy things about you. So you can soak that up. But that also plays a role as to, I'm not going to suggest you're just motivated by somebody patting you on the back, but hey, guess what? Sometimes you're motivated by somebody patting you on the back. That's simple. So to be able to maintain, go ahead and sit down there, Ed. To be able to maintain, this is not something you go, well, you're feeling good because you've won recently, and now Joe Lenardi and all the eggheads have you solidly in the field. Yeah, make sure that you get in there and you solidify yourself while you're there. So at Oregon tonight, and then on the road coming up, at home against Ohio State to close it out, and then back up here for the Big Ten tournament. So a different set of circumstances with both IU and Purdue. Purdue's trying to find that groove again. And hopefully playing off of what you discovered against UCLA on Friday night. You get Rutgers, and then you get a tough close. What is that, Friday night in Champaign? If you watched Illinois looks so good at Michigan on Sunday. So to maintain is critical for different reasons for both of these teams coming up later on tonight. So college hoop discussion. Greg Rakestraw and I know it's night number 1 of the high school basketball boys sectional play. The girls wrap up on Saturday at Cambridge Fieldhouse, and the fellas are off and running. And it is always a massive Tuesday night. There is nothing more, believe me, I've lived through this before, and it sucks. There's nothing more disappointing than rolling into the lose and you're done situation of sectionals in basketball at Indiana high school basketball. And, hey, Gray, here's night number 1. Let's go. Yeah, we got that 6 o'clock start. We get out of school on a Tuesday, go to that start, and then you get beat. No, you're poof, you're done. You go, wait a minute, what happened? Like a week ago, season was in full swing, and now our asses are complete. We're done. Come on. Yeah, the Tuesday night loss is, and believe me, this is coming from somebody with a great deal of knowledge from it. The Tuesday night loss situation sucks. Greg Rakestraw about that and then some coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Matthew Graves, it has not been a spectacular season by any stretch for Indiana State. Am I always in there with the Sycamores? Absolutely. Do I like Matt Graves? Absolutely. Believe me, it was going to be this way regardless. And if it didn't turn out to be this way this season, no excuses, right? But you have excuses if you want them. Hey, by the way, your entire team goes all the way to the NIT championship a year ago. And, 9 guys the next day are in the transfer portal. And I've mentioned this before, I did not know to this day they had 9 dudes on their team. I go, wait a minute, who are these other guys that are in the transfer portal? What, the manager in it? I'll tell you who you could have put in it back then, and then obviously it was retirement. You could have put Deb, the president, in there. 9 dudes in the transfer portal. And it has not been a fantastic Missouri Valley Conference season. in year number 1 as head coach in Terre Haute. We'll break that down with Matt coming up here at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Southern Illinois and ISU and Indiana State, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to win 4 in a row to get to the tournament. Last year, I know I was over there on a Sunday afternoon in St. Louis at that incredibly crappy arena in incredibly crappy St. Louis, and here I was. Just took one game against Drake to get in. It's funny. I hear about this all the time. You know what? You got a lot more run out of the NIT situation than you would have a one and done in the NCAA tournament. But, man, that would have felt good still. I love the NIT stuff. I mean, really what it did was say, hey, guess what? This NIT thing still exists. But all the way over there and watch 2 dudes now that are at West Virginia, the coach and the star player, go off each in their own way. You remember they have another star that's someplace else legitimate too. I shouldn't say legitimate. Drake's legitimate, don't get me wrong. And they're showing that again this year. But we'll talk to Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. And I do need a Pacer update because, again, you got the Rockets and the Pacers, the second of a back-to-back for Houston coming up later on tonight of the Pacers. That tip time tonight is at 7 o'clock. All right, we're now under a week away from the legalized tampering that was established, I want to say, about 13 years ago by the NFL. You can go in and you can start yip-yapping as if back channeling's not already going on. But, yeah, this is certainly illegal. It is going to be interesting to see. Are we going to see early if there is any change? And I know what you expect. You're not holding your breath, and I have told you, do not hold your breath on it. But are we going to see, and will it be early, a change of heart, a change in process, a change in philosophy? How hardcore about the quarterback? How much money for somebody like Daniel Jones? I mean, what is the cap on that? Would Daniel Jones be better than Gardner Minshew? Would Daniel Jones be better than Joe Flacco? Basically, you get excited about Daniel Jones, and I'm not suggesting you're over the top excited because nobody really is. But if you do have a tone of excitement in your voice at all, if you bring up Daniel Jones or really any other quarterback in that situation that's going to be brought in here as the so-called competition, it's because you have a fulfilled non-belief in Anthony Richardson. And you know how I feel about the situation as far as competition. There's no competition. Who are you pushing? You honestly think that they're going to start a season with a healthy Anthony Richardson going into year 3 after all this crap they've sold you and not put him out there as a starter? How drunk would you have to be to listen to that? No way. But you do need to maintain, regardless of the circumstances. You know, even if Richardson comes out, well, let's just say, for example, he turns it up. He plays much better. He plays, let's just say, satisfactory. You're still going to need some sort of quality backup because you know at some point there is going to be a level of unavailability. That doesn't mean you're getting pushed by competition. Honestly, Chris Ballard, that's who needs to get pushed by competition. My God, you're going into year number 9. And what everybody in that division's wanted a couple of different times, except for you, that's tough. I know we said last week at the presser, it may have been on in the morning show. Hell, I can't remember. At this point, it all gets a little bit mixed up in my little feeble brain. However, he did state at some point somewhere last week that he kind of wears this on his shoulders of letting Indianapolis down, that weight. And that weight should feel real because it is there. Let's just face it, there's absolutely zero excuse. And normally in the NFL, for anybody, there is not going to be that lengthy excuse. Regardless. Even with, if you want to talk about what they went through with a quarterback and then trying to find the quarterback, regardless, you would have already decided to rinse it out and start it all over again. Alas, they did not do that here. Jim Irsay did not do that here. So you're talking about elevating the competition. How about looking in the mirror and elevating that competition? Does it always have to be your way? Does your way work? Does it show that your way works? Because we don't have evidence of that working. Early and often will we find that out if things are different? Or will it dictate maybe similar terms? Coming up early next week. We will go over that. We have talked about safeties and corners yesterday on the free agent market with Stephen Holder. If you missed any of that conversation, 1075thefan.com. That is the podcast. Hey, before I take a break and get to Greg Rakestraw, he's a little bit earlier today. The ClusterTruck is in the house. My man Evan Sherrill is here. Hello, Evan.
Hello, how's it going?
You showed up with the bag full of food, a little salmon action for me. Some vegetables. What'd you get for James over there today?
I brought James my absolute favorite ClusterTruck item today.
What is that?
It's what I tried before I even knew I could work for ClusterTruck. The Lazy Breakfast Burrito. It is phenomenal.
Breakfast for dinner is always a really good thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
This is the only breakfast item on our menu served all day, and there's a reason. It is phenomenal. Side of tater tots as well.
There we go. I'm excited.
Breakfast for dinner. You guys dig on breakfast for dinner? James normally eats like Captain Crunch for dinner, I think. That's kind of breakfast.
That's breakfast for dinner.
Yeah.
Breakfast for dinner, but not only that, it's breakfast for dinner in a burrito. So it's even better.
Yeah, wrapped up in a flour tortilla shell right there, my brother. ClusterTruck.com. Use the code FAN for $5 off right now, correct?
Correct.
Go ahead and tell everybody all about that, Evan.
That is perfect. Yeah, find us at ClusterTruck.com. Download our app. Use code FAN at checkout for $5 off, 25 or more.
That is a brilliant idea. ClusterTruck.com. How you guys doing? And we're going to get ready for a lot of basketball. People sending out and wanting the food brought to them.
Exactly. Yeah, doing well. And like you said, a lot of basketball coming up. Starting in March, we'll have the Dunk Fest coming up. So that starts actually a week from today. $29.99, cheesy bread, 2 pounds strips and dip. Chips and queso and churros.
The Dunk Fest.
Dipping sauce. Yeah, Dunk Fest special.
Oh, yeah. So you're dunking in the dipping sauce is what we're talking about there.
Good.
Yeah.
We partnered with Keenan Gardner and Katie Davidson from IU Indy basketball as well to promote that. So I'm excited for that content to come out. It'll be very good.
All right. ClusterTruck.com. That's Evan Sherrill in studio. And again, and tonight would be a great night because you got basketball all over the joint. So
Dial-up Ball State men's versus Central Michigan.
Yes.
Need to have that dub tonight
the
to make the
Fighting Michael Lewis is up there, man.
We need that. ESPN Plus, dial it up, order some ClusterTruck. That's what my night looks like tonight. So
the Fighting Michael Lewises. So I was just watching the video the other day. Remember at IU when he threw inbounding the ball against, was it Jacob Jacks? Or no, it was Jacob Jakes. The Iowa player, he threw it off his face.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
I mean, inbound the ball off your face.
I'm gonna have to.
Which was classic.
Dial that up tonight too.
If there was anybody that ever inbounds the ball off somebody's face, it was Michael Lewis, and it makes all the sense in the world. That's exactly the guy to do it. Let me go ahead and inbound that ball off your grill.
I stand behind him. I love him as the coach at Ball State.
Jacob Jakes, I believe, was that big man's name for Iowa back. It's spelled Jacks, but I think it was pronounced Jakes. Are you way too young to have recollection of this moment, huh?
That's a little pre-me.
Well, that's too bad. How my God, how far back do we got to, 2010? Were you like 7 years old or what? This goes back to the late 90s, I think.
Okay.
Maybe right before the 2000s.
1996 for me, so, maybe I was.
You were born in 96?
96,
Holy crap, I was 26 years old in 1996.
I was also born in 96.
What?
Heck yeah.
No wonder you guys don't know a damn thing. Come on now. All right, one more time. FAN's the code, right? ClusterTruck.com, Evan?
Yep. Use code FAN, $5 off. ClusterTruck.com. Download the app. And look forward to the Dunk Fest special coming out.
You got it. That's Evan Sherrill right there. ClusterTruck.com. Promo code FAN. You got a big night for it. Dunk Fest upcoming. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys for squeezing me in early.
You got it. Evan Sherrill, ClusterTruck.com. That promo code is FAN. Utilize that bad boy later on tonight and thank us later. Matthew Graves, the head coach of my alma mater, Indiana State, Arch Madness forthcoming. They have Southern Illinois. We'll talk to Matt about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Greg Rakestraw is going to join us on the other side. I've got a lot to discuss here, so if you guys want to load it up at 239-1070, please do just that. The stream, the app, it's HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Would love to have you inside, and you can participate and do what you guys normally do inside the AAA Membership Lounge. That's YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
There's a kid in my class that got a boner at PE in high school. He was wearing sweatpants. It was really embarrassing, so this song goes out to him.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Crank this up for me. The Brady Bunch, James. I'm going to tell you what, a day like today, this is like June stuff. Given what we've gone through here in recent memory. I always thought this, and I know he's a fan of mine. You can hear him doing re-entries on the JMV Takeover. That is actor Barry Williams that played Greg Brady. Big fan of mine. I thought that he was a genius. He was a great actor. He was a fantastic musician. Remember what he did in that one episode as Johnny Bravo? I always thought that it was understated, his level of greatness. Everybody wants to go, with the Partridge Family. Or the Osmonds. Greg Brady, the epicenter of greatness right there, both acting-wise on TV and then in music. By the way, celebrating a great day and doing that with our next guest on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I know it starts a big time for him, basketball, whether we're talking about high school level, collegiate level. Greg Rakestraw joins us now. Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Are you out in the wind?
Am I?
Are you in the wind right now?
I am not in the wind. I am just running through the cobblestone streets known as Kessler Boulevard on the near north side of Indianapolis.
Well done. All right, let's start Tuesday night, high school basketball. What turns the crank? And I always said this because I'm so familiar with losing on night number one of the sectionals when I were in high school. There's few things that suck worse than that.
I guess as I look back on it, I guess I can say in my 4 years at Lanesville High School, we avoided that.
Really?
Because I guess it happened my junior year. Maybe I blocked a member because Floyd Central just thumped us. We lost the first night out my sophomore year, but at least we drew the bye. We got to the semifinals by way of the draw, made the sectional championship my senior year and got beat by New Albany on their way to the Final Four. They beat us by 6. And then my freshman year, we beat our big rival in the opener and got beat by the eventual sectional champion in a close game in the semifinals.
Well, Take it from my ill-fated experience that it is zero fun because you're just getting started Tuesday, especially if it's the early game. If you got the 6 o'clock game on a Tuesday and you're bounced after about an hour and a half, there's not a lot that sucks worse than that.
Well, I would say what might get your attention is the fact that depending on what poll you follow, I got 1 versus 2 in the state tonight. Fishers and Westfield, second game at Carmel. We'll have the opener as well. You can catch Fishers and Westfield on MyNDTV 23. All games, sectional and regional rounds, stream free, ihsaatv.org. We'll be camp out the Carmel sectional all week long for all 5 games there. Noblesville checks in at number 8 in the state. And tonight's session is sold out. You don't need your tickets. You're stuck listening to me do the doubleheader.
That is loaded right there, Greg. Absolutely loaded. And you're going to have, either way, you're going to have massive disappointment, and you're going to have a lot of people complaining about the first night matchup. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just kind of the case in that sectional every year. I'll tell you, there's probably a bigger gap this year from top to bottom of that sectional than there is most years. Last year, you had numbers 1, 2, and 3 in the state in that sectional. Westfield drew Noblesville and got pummeled the first night of the tournament in Noblesville's gym. I'm not sure I expect that with Fishers and Westfield this time around because they just played, I guess, 4 weeks ago now, and Westfield led for most of that game. Fishers found a way to come back and win because they've won every game they have played so far this year, as they are 24-0 heading into the postseason. But we avoided that in a lot of other areas in the state. This is clearly the case where you have 2 of the best teams in the state, 2 of the best teams in the sectionals that drew each other on night number 1.
Greg, help me out here. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He's Greg Rakestraw. You get a Zachary kid and a Gardner kid. Compare and contrast their games for that Fishers team.
Cooper is the point guard. Cooper is the three-point shooter of many that they have. For Jason Gardner Jr., he is a good three-point shooter, but does not take a lot of them. What he does is get to the rim, cut off the ball, score around the basket. He is undoubtedly a major-level player. Again, both these two young men are sophomores. Zachary Kidd does not have the build of a Division I athlete, but he is such a good shooter, and he is so intelligent as a basketball player. He's starting to get some major attention from a recruiting standpoint as well. So it is truly, point guard and almost Gardner's more of a 3, but I think easily he could play a 2 if given the opportunity in terms of his college future.
It's Chittard Cathedral, I think, later on tonight's another matchup I'm sure we'll hard target and talk about, too. And, I mean, you look at the rest of the state, Southridge is Lodi, Washington, Vincennes, Lincoln, Gibson, Southern, and Jasper. And while the teams, aren't at the highest of level, the excitement down there always is. They pack the gym.
I believe at Huntingburg, I think there are 96 combined wins of the 6 teams that are there, and kind of the one team that is under 500 is Jasper, and it's a Jasper team that plays, largely a 4A schedule now, being a part of the SIAC. But all those schools want to beat up on Jasper because historically they've always wanted to beat up on Jasper, but especially now. So that one gets your attention down at Southridge. The Cathedral-Chittard matchup is the warm-up to Friday night for Cathedral Addicts. Chittard has really struggled this year in terms of boys basketball. They don't pose much of a threat to Cathedral. But Cathedral and Addicts are two teams that we'd be talking about them if they were in 4A. They're not. Addicts was up for the last 5 years, never won a sectional, won the city twice, won the Hall of Fame Classic last year. They have Desmond Briscoe that is going to Iowa. Cathedral has Brady Kaler going to Notre Dame. They brought back their entire starting 5 from a year ago, and they add Julian Smith and Armani Wells from Mount Vernon. They're one of the best teams in the state, period. Both those teams, whomever gets past the other, is one of the favorites to win 3A. So that'll be one of the headline games likely coming up Friday.
I probably should talk about the city of Clay and those Eels, but I'm going to give a little bit of love to those out of Eminence and Morgan County, Indiana, rural Morgan County, Indiana, versus Indianapolis Metropolitan. And I believe earlier in the season, it was not good when these two teams matched up. What about this group of Eels coming up here at 6 and 17 tonight, Greg?
For those Eminence Eels, their probably better chance of winning a sectional was the girls, who unfortunately got upset by Greenwood Christian Academy. Their girls had won the last 2 sectionals. Boys basketball has not been as competitive. Indy Met is one of the favorites in 1A. They will meet up with those other Eels likely at some point in time. But Indy Met is one of the better 1A teams in the state, and a good chunk of their losses has come to 4A competition.
Greg, over the weekend, you were a part of it. You had Borden, South Knox. You had, I think, Norwell over Greensburg. Greensburg was looking to go unbeaten on the season, and then Lawrence North. Give me a quick thumbnail sketch of those matchups, and then how legit was the crowd in that 2A? Because I had a ton of people send me stuff because of the group South Knox brought from Knox County.
I know that the overall attendance was north of 18,000, which is the most they have had for the girls' basketball state finals since 2009. And that year it was played at Lucas Oil Stadium and featured Skylar Diggins for South Bend, Washington, unbeaten Ben Davis team, to kind of give you an idea what the stage was like some 16 years ago. I know South Knox brought a phenomenal crowd, which was expected. They were likely the heaviest favorite of the 4 games, and Rensselaer Central's really good. But South Knox was one of the best teams in the state, regardless of classification, and they played like it with a 22-point win. But from a community standpoint, you kind of knew you would see great crowds. You had 7 of 8 public schools. The one parochial school in Central Catholic is very well supported and used to getting to Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and obviously an hour away, so the crowds are going to be good. Warsaw was tremendous in terms of the crowd they brought. Both Norwell and Greensburg, outstanding in terms of the crowds they brought. I think on the outside looking in, you might have considered both Norwell and LN winning slight upsets in those later 2 games. I would not view them as that. In the Sagarin ratings, Norwell actually came in rated higher than Greensburg. Part of that is because of the great schedule they play and a number of 4A teams and how good their league, the Northeast 8, is, with Columbia City having Eddie Baxter, who's going to play at Butler for Austin Parkinson next year. So all in all, great games, great crowds, great day to celebrate 50 years of girls basketball in the IHSAA.
Greg Rakestraw's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you got IU, Oregon later on tonight, Purdue, Rutgers later on tonight. I do want to start with IU and what is going to be the end result of this coaching search. I don't think you and I have talked about this, at least in this portion of the show. Who do you think best fits? Who do you think they ultimately get for that next gig once the season is complete?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think the two obvious answers now have both said no. You know, you had to start with Brad, even if it was a low percentage. You had to go to Dusty next, and obviously that has now been taken care of by the University of Michigan. I honestly think, John, it is an open conversation. You've got now at least 3 weeks before this plays out because credit Mike Woodson and the current guys, they have finally taken advantage of the opportunities in front of them, and they have gone from a team that they're not a tournament lock, but they're not exactly in the first four out group. They're in the field, you know, with a couple of games left to play, and so, you know, I'm not sure if I can spit at you 5 or 6 names. I'm not sure there's a clubhouse favorite at this point, to be honest with you. I think this is a process. I think the internal favorite could literally change 2 or 3 times between now and the likely earliest you would make that announcement, which would probably be sometime in, say, the week after the first and second rounds and before the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 that last week of March.
Greg, I've mentioned this before, and Don Fisher has mentioned this before, which obviously magnifies it. But you look at the 3 Hoosier State kids, and I say kids loosely here, dudes for this IU basketball team, and between Luke Goody and Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal, I think they're a lot of the reason why this team is playing much better and certainly much more consistent and in closing some game situations that we did not see them do, because now you got a mixture of the talent, which is clearly there, but you have the whole recognition of what it actually means. I think at least in the past couple of weeks, this has been a better mold, and the results are there for it.
You mean the give a blank factor is much higher is what you're trying to say?
Than just the cash flow, which is great. Hey, to have the NIL reservoir, the resources that you have, that's great at IU, but you have to have a lot of recognition too, and they have 3 guys right now, I think, that are playing at the level that recognition deserves, has deserved, and is getting right now from them.
This is really not that hard. Be on the top 1 or 2 kids in the state of Indiana every year. Use the NIL to either have a national level recruit every year or go get the biggest, baddest dude in the transfer portal every year. Rinse and repeat. You're going to be allowed to have 15 guys on your roster, scholarship-wise, non-scholarship-wise, under the new regulation. That's the way this is going to work. So literally you put together a 4-man class every year, maybe even a 5-man class, knowing a player or 2 is going to walk at the end of every year. Go get the top 1 or 2 players in the state of Indiana, get another national-level recruit, fine, and then plug the holes with the best players you can go get from a name, image, and likeness standpoint. Indiana now has the resources. And I thought what used to be a legitimate gripe, concern, observation was, hey, we can talk about history, tradition, banners, etc., but these kids in their lifetime have not seen Indiana truly be a national power. Well, you know what? Frankly, that doesn't matter anymore. Indiana, from a payroll standpoint, is going to be a top 5, top 10 program in the country because you just don't get the revenue that comes in from 17,000 people on a game-by-game basis, donors, etc. This is now back to being a blue blood. And what I just gave you is the formula to go be successful every year as long as the rules are in this fashion the way they are right now.
Boilers trying to maintain against Rutgers coming up later on tonight and close out, because that's going to be a tough one on Friday night. Kind of a quick turnaround, that tough Friday night slot on the road in Champaign against Illinois coming up on Friday night. So you really need to take care of what you should take care of tonight.
And knowing that this is a group that has largely played together and has been there for some of the travails against Rutgers in years gone by, Rutgers will have their attention. I think this is a group that realizes they are playing for still a protected seed and trying to have their tournament path be as close to West Lafayette as possible. Again, this group is capable of being beaten because they're just not that great defensively on any given night, I don't think this group will be overlooking Rutgers this evening.
All right, Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I saw this Jim Inskeep X message that, as you mentioned, the games tonight are sold out. Tonight's sectional at Carmel. Doors open at 5. Shuttle bus service provided from the football stadium. Fans should consider this easy option when looking for parking. And the games can also be seen and heard later on tonight. So you got everybody covered, my brother, as usual.
HSAATV.org, free for both. Second game on television tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30. Both games Friday, championship Saturday. Also available, My Indy TV 23. As easy as that. And frankly, I'd be disappointed if all 3 nights were not completely sold out at Carmel this week.
So is the Inskeep going to come to your place in Broad Ripple and pick your ass up and take you?
I tend to have a secret parking spot when I go, because the Carmel campus doesn't have much parking these days, but it's pretty massive. There are some nooks and crannies. So I don't say I have a reserved parking spot. I do have a secret parking spot that I don't tell anybody about. I'll be getting there around 4:30. I should be just fine.
All right, buddy. Always a pleasure, man. Have a great week.
And my apologies for not calling in. I was a little busy. I was on the air from like 6 until 11, and then I was on with Level for like 30 minutes. So I'm pretty sure the request line was busy by the time I tried to call the show. I'll do better this week.
You got it, buddy. I'll be looking for you Saturday, Greg. Thank you.
And tell Matt I said hello.
You got it. Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. The Matt that he mentions, Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State. Arch Madness is on the way. We'll talk about the Sycamores and their season to date and the compare. I don't know how much comparing we'll be doing last year, but where it goes from here with Matt, top of the hour. And Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. A big one at home against the Rockets for the Pacers tonight. Stay right there. I've got stuff to give away. I'll explain. Again, don't go anywhere. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, see if you can close the door on a 2-game West Coast trip if you're IU later on tonight. And if the Boilers just maintain that, get back into that groove. Get Rutgers at home, IU on the road in Eugene versus Oregon later on tonight. You know, I had mentioned Butler senior night with Xavier coming up tomorrow night at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I know IU Indy off and running in the Horizon League at Indiana State. Later this week, Arch Madness, Matthew Graves, their head coach, going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Got a lot going on, don't we? You got a lot to discuss. And the Pacers and the Rockets, this is one of these games tonight to where it'll really make you Pacer fans feel good. And Pacer fans normally get a lot to complain about. Normally you're complaining about a lot. And I see it all. Normally it's directed at me. You're complaining about a lot. This is an opportunity against a really good team. I don't give a damn if it's the second of a back-to-back or whatever. That'd make it worse if you lose at home. But this is one of those games where when I mention you prepare for a stretch run and ramp it up to get to the postseason, this is one of those games I'm talking about. This is not one of those, oh, yawn, ho, hum kind of thing. This is a legit Western Conference threat, a very young and talented team. They got wings all over the place. They're flying everywhere, knocking down threes. This is a team that you get them at home and the type of performance that you look for to elevate as you hit the stretch run and then be playing the best you can in what is going to be a very tough postseason this year, without a doubt. This is one of those games tonight in which we will judge. It is. You can say, well, it's just one night. No. We will judge tonight. You will judge tonight. This is the reality of it. And this is what happens when you're a good team and there are a high level of expectations about you. You will be judged. Quick one, we'll do just that. Matthew Graves, Indiana State, after year number 1, they go into Arch Madness coming up later on this week in St. Louis. We'll talk to the Sycamores head coach and Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers, in the 5 o'clock hour. Mary J. Blige tickets. The queen of R&B and hip-hop is going to be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I believe that's in April, right? That show? I want to make sure I'm right about that. I got a pair of tickets for you. We're going to do Real Love from Mary J. Blige.
Let's do
it.
The
re-entry.
And it's Monday, April 21st.
There you go. Monday, April the 21st. Real Love's the re-entry. And number 9, when you hear that, that should be your cue to call. It's coming up, too. Don't go anywhere. Hour 2 straight ahead. The stream, the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, we are busy around here. Hour 2 begins. Rockets Pacers, second of a back-to-back. A lot of the frontliners, at least 3 of them, did not participate for the Rockets. They lost last night at Oklahoma City. But still, if you watched any of that game last night, they hung in. They had dudes playing that hadn't suited up and played since December. And hung in against OKC. Rockets are talented. Tip time, 7 o'clock tonight. 6:30 coverage begins. That follows Anything Goes here on the Fan later on tonight. And you got IU on the road at Eugene, Oregon tonight at 9 o'clock. 8 o'clock coverage right across the hall, 93 WIBC with Don and Eric and John. Again, that's IU in Oregon. IU trying to maintain. And the Boilermakers at home against Rutgers coming up tonight as well. Full recap of absolutely everything. I don't know if I'm anywhere this week, and that's concerning. Because it will be the first time in a long time during the week I'm not on the road somewhere, which is a bummer. Unless I start drinking in here. It's
not like you don't have enough supply back in your office.
There's plenty of I know it. I don't know. That may be frowned upon here. I think when I'm out there
I mean, the guys
promoting the product and stuff.
The guys across the hall, they have like Beer Sample Friday and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. What people don't know is me and it's like this is nothing political, but me and the dudes across the hall, we share an event, kind of a little meeting, if you will, before our shows each start at 3. We do that daily, or at least the days in which I'm in here, which this week looks like all stinking 5. Come on now. I believe we do have some on the horizon, maybe some. Hey, I did see this, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it just yet, but what the hell, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. James frowns upon that, but Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel, we're going to do a live show there, right? And you're going to go, wait, a jewelry store, but hold on. They have an incredible bar. It looks like Cheers upstairs. You walk up some stairs in Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel, and it looks like Cheers up there. We are doing it from their bar at Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. You got to admit, that's pretty badass. It is. And you also have to admit, if there's anybody that is going to do a live show from a bar inside a incredible jewelry store, it's going to be me. That is coming up later on this month that you will not want to miss, I'll promise. I'll share these terms with you. Plus, James, one more thing. You know, our guys at AAA, Matt Godbout, is putting together a trip for this show.
Really?
Like a cruise.
That would be right up your alley.
A cruise for this show. I need to know who's going to be able, and I don't know exactly when it's going to be just yet, but a cruise for this show.
Should do a special live edition of The Takeover from a cruise ship.
It's a week shirtless with me. Seriously, you know how much fun that's going to be? I'll let you in as the info flows. I'll let you in on all of it. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's the first-year head coach of Indiana State. He's a fellow Greene Countian, just like me. And the Sycamores of ISU get Southern Illinois at 1 o'clock coming up on Thursday. Round number 1, game number 1 of Arch Madness. That is the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament, and Matthew Graves joins us now from the TH. Hello, Matt. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Let me tell you this. I'm going to lay it on the line for you right here, Matt. You ready?
I'm good.
I know you have zero experience in this. I attended Eastern during a time when I have plenty of experience. Like, I'll give you a great example. Tonight's the first night of the sectional. I was the only thing I was ever familiar with in the first night of the sectional on a Tuesday night was the disappointment of losing that 6 o'clock game. Okay, I'm very, very used to that with my 4 years at Eastern Greene as a member of the Thunderbirds. So I want you got that first game at 1 o'clock coming up on Thursday. Let's push this envelope past Southern Illinois and roll the dice and see what the hell happens over in St. Louis. How about that?
Yeah, no question. And I think I was probably part of one of your Eastern memories. You know, when when it consolidated to White River Valley, that was my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And my freshman year, Sweat City Tigers, we played Eastern Green that first night, and we did pull off the upset. So
yeah.
bringing back some memories for you there.
Oh yeah, we have awful. Like if we have awful memories in the sectional for the most part, especially during my era, because sometimes we did go to Sweat City, but there was moments in which, remember, Eastern, we went to Bedford North Lawrence and got massively screwed. I mean, when you're going to Bedford North Lawrence that you're going to take a screw job. And we got massively. No no chance. Like, I give you a great example. Our good friend, Michael Burris, was a freshman.
Oh, yeah.
On Eastern, and we played B&L in the first night of that. He had the first 11 points of the game and then got back-to-back 3 whistles of fouls called him. It was incredible. So the sawmill and the screw job was on. So if we weren't going over there and getting hosed, we were disappointing in Sweat City. There was no way out of it.
Well, the good thing, too, back then, and I was fortunate enough, I never had to play at Bloomfield because back then they always did the Thanksgiving Classic, and we always played Bloomfield at White River Valley. So never experienced that going on the road. But the other thing, I'm trying to explain to a couple guys on our staff, they were talking about how nice the weather was out today.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, just wait, it's going to snow this week. And, because as we all know, it snows during sectional week at some point. And they couldn't believe it. And one of our assistants pulled up the weather forecast, and I guess there's supposed to be a chance of snow later this week. He just couldn't believe what the weather is going to be. But you can always tell sectional week, and obviously wishing all my coaching friends out there the best of luck during this week. But as you mentioned, heading over to Arch Madness, we'd like to stay there for a long time this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and it's going to be a tough road. There's no doubt about that either. Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So has this season gone? Listen, this was going to be a tough mountain to climb here. There's no doubt about that. With the era in which we're in anyway, and then the massive changes, bringing in basically an entirely new team was going to be difficult. So how has the season gone compared to how you visualized that before the start?
I think it's been good. Obviously, when you finish essentially in a tie for 8th and get the 9th seed, people are like, how can you say it's a good season when you finish that low? And I think this year you can't measure everything by wins and losses because we got better. We made strides. We've got a foundation built. We lost 3 games during the conference season in overtime, and we were talking as a staff the other day. We had 17 other games that with 4 minutes to go in the game. It was a 2-possession game, and we were 6-11 in those games. So, part of that is just getting more comfortable and getting more into a flow and having guys understand what we're trying to do. And part of it, too, to be quite honest, is I need to get better and continue to improve. But overall, it was a very solid season, and I think we can make it even more memorable by going over there and competing and playing well in St. Louis. And like I said from day one to our team, our focus was not about the number of wins and losses. Our focus was when we got on the bus to head over to St. Louis, do we have a team that we feel like could cut down nets on Sunday? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes. We have enough firepower. We have enough depth. Obviously, it's a daunting task trying to win 4 games in 4 days. But at the same time, we've got really good momentum coming off the way we played in our regular season finale.
It's up Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline against Southern Illinois coming up in game number 1 of Arch Madness in St. Louis on Thursday. When you look at the entirety of your resume this season, it looks very streaky. right? You get a lot of wins together, a lot of losses together. Was that kind of the tail of the tape for your guy? Were your guys as streaky as the results would dictate, not just at the end of the year, but over the course of the season?
It was. We had some stretches there where we had a little bit of the injury bug with some guys and had some guys in and out of the lineup. But that's, that happens throughout all of college basketball. And then, part of our schedule, we had a stretch that was really tough. And, we hit it where we played Belmont, who finished top 4, Bradley, top 4, Drake, who won the league, a game at Illinois State, which is always a tough place to play, and then playing at Northern Iowa, who finished top 4. So part of it was just how the schedule aligned and playing, some teams that are grouped in the upper half of the league all together. But, then, towards the end of the season, we had a stretch where we beat Illinois State, then we lost 3 in a row to Evansville, Belmont, and Murray State. But all 3 of those games, we played some really good basketball. We just didn't play enough and were able to finish the game. But it wasn't like we were playing bad. We were just getting beat. And then, to come with the Southern Illinois game on Sunday to kind of stamp that and get a win, I think it's really going to help our guys' confidence. So in some respects, the schedule caught up with us at different times. A little bit of it was injury, and then some of it was the streakiness and the way we shoot the ball. But I'm really excited, about the way we're playing. We're taking care of the basketball better. We've went from a team that can't guard anybody to a team that's average defensively. So I think we continue to evolve in that area. But, I like the draw. I like the way it played itself out. You get a crack again at Southern Illinois, which is going to be a lot tougher game than it was on Sunday. And then if you win, you get to play Drake. And, we played them to an overtime game at their place about a month ago. So, anything's possible. And it's going to be a really exciting Arch Madness.
Yeah, Matt Graves, the head coach of Indiana State, again, 1 o'clock coming up on Thursday is that first game against Southern Illinois. I'll get to that matchup because that was, I believe, your senior day to end the regular season, and that may have been the best game you have seen out of your group in a while. I did want to ask you this before we get to Drake and looking ahead here. So who taught these dudes how to play defense over the course of the season? Was that you?
Well, it wasn't me.
Did you bring in a defensive specialist? Did you?
Yeah. I'm gonna blame it all on that Edgewood guy I got on my staff and Coach Schlesinger. So I'm gonna take it out.
Yeah, Ron Heklinski probably taught him how to do that, right? Because I will tell you what, if you weren't playing defense there for him, you weren't playing. That was the thing.
No.
Yeah.
No question. But it's funny you ask about that, and people all the time, defensively, obviously, it's a lot about effort and playing hard and competing on that end with scouting report and things like that. But the honest truth is we're limited in that area. We really don't have a shot blocking guy on the perimeter. We've got guards that honestly are wired to score the basketball, and we've got to get stronger. We've got to have a really good off season in that area. Putting 15, 20 pounds on some guys and doing that. But, it was fun to watch our group evolve throughout the year. And, early in the year, you and I could have went out there and got a quick 20 on our defense.
I know it. Well, you should have called me. I'd have been on the road.
I haven't seen your jump shot lately.
Oh,
but
hey, dude.
I'm sure you're still playing, morning hoops and getting shots up. And,
I have lost 75 pounds since you've seen me last. So I've turned back the clock 25 years.
Oh my goodness.
I am on fire right now.
So are we going when we lay the ball up? Can we slap the backboard now?
I can get the pad. But I can always get the pad. Yeah, I can slap the pad. Now the layup may not go in, but I can still slap the pad.
I love it. But that's been the one thing that's fun about this team. It's really evolved, and they've gotten better defensively, and they've figured some things out. And you're exactly right. The last game that we played here at home was one of the better games we've played all year. And Greg Rakestraw was on the call, and he was giving me a hard time. He's called 2 games for us this year, and one of them we scored 101 points, and on Sunday we scored 95. So I'm trying to figure out a way getting back over here more often if we're going to score close to 100.
Yeah, why so good offensively? And especially we'll talk about because Southern Illinois is that first matchup on Thursday for you and the squad here. Why so good offensively on Senior Day?
Well, the biggest thing is, we had 4 guys in double figures, and we had 23 assists on our 32 field goals. So guys were sharing the ball, they were cutting, and we've really figured out, and we've scored the ball over the past month very consistently. We're averaging well over 80 points a game, and guys are finding each other, and certainly it starts with Samaj Teal, who in my opinion is going to we'll find out tomorrow for sure, but I think he's going to get first team all league, and he's been a wonderful performer for us, and we're just in a really good rhythm, and we got unselfish guys that run the floor, space the floor, and just know how to play on that end. And we haven't turned the ball over. That's the one thing that this past month where we've made great strides on offense, and our scorings went up because we're averaging about 3 less turnovers per game as well.
So how different you mentioned Drake a little bit earlier, and you guys, an overtime loss last time out at Drake on the road in that situation. How do they look compared to what we witnessed? I know obviously personnel changes, coaching changes, and all that, but how do they look now compared to what people might know them and how they looked a year ago?
They're just so different in the fact that they play extremely slow, and they're very patient. They don't beat themselves, and they honestly remind me of the Butler teams back in the early 2000s, where it was very guard dominated. You had like a Thomas Jackson or a Brandon Miller, Mike Green, AJ Graves. Those guys they have a guard in Bennett Sturts who will be named the Larry Bird Player of the Year in the league. He's phenomenal. They put the ball in his hands, and they just don't beat themselves. And if unfortunately their net is about 60 right now. Well, the problem is they're really a better team than that. They just don't blow teams out because they play a lot of low-scoring basketball games. But the way they execute and operate and the way they guard defensively is a really, really high level. So, if they make it in the NCAA tournament as an at-large, I would be scared to death if I was a high major that had to play them and saw them in the bracket.
It's Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Sycamores, the first game of the tournament, first game against Southern Illinois. Again, 1 o'clock from St. Louis coming up on Thursday. So how's the landscape of this team going to look in year number 2 for you? Have you had an opportunity to try to figure that out? I'm assuming you have to on the fly every single day, but have you thought about what it's going to look like next year compared to what it looks like right now?
Yeah, we've had we know obviously we're going to lose Samaj Teal, and we're going to lose Kamani Dottie, and we're going to lose Aaron Gray. So we've got some pieces that we know we're losing. We're going to have at minimum 3 spots to fill in the transfer portal, and what we really need to get in those 3 spots, we need to go get 2 combo guards that can really play and are dynamic and can play on and off the ball, and we need a bigger 6'7", 6'8" shooting wing. So unfortunately, you don't fit that bill as our big shooting wing. If you were 6'7", we'd take a look at you.
Would you really? Even at 55?
Yeah. Hey,
I still have eligibility. So who knows what I did at Indiana State when I was there, Matt. So.
Hey, the biggest thing is if you could run as fast as you can to the corner and spot up and make 40%, we'll find a way to use you. That's what we need.
I'm constant motion right now, Coach. Constant motion. It is incredible.
75 pounds though. That's amazing.
We went at it pretty. We went at it pretty hard since the beginning of July.
man, I need to drop about 20 myself. So this season's been hard on me.
Yeah, and then obviously as you get older, it becomes tougher. But yeah, we've discovered a little something we're hanging with right now. I did want to ask you this, as far as NIL is concerned, and that's now as prominent in any conversation you're going to have about any team in the college basketball landscape. How are you feeling about the situation in Terre Haute?
It's moving in a very positive direction. We've got an administration that is very passionate about helping in that area. We've got a wonderful collective that's really grown by leaps and bounds since the fall. So we're putting ourselves in a position to really have a lot of success in that area. And then also what's been great this year, we finished third in the Missouri Valley in attendance. And, our fans are still showing up. They're still supporting. And that's been, certainly wonderful to see, especially, after a season that we had last year and, the mass exodus of players and obviously Coach Schertz moving on to St. Louis. You could have sensed some fans that maybe didn't want to come back, but, they came back and supported, and our crowds were terrific all year, even though we had some ups and downs. That last game on Senior Day, we had, close to 5,000 people in the Holman Center, and, it's wonderful to feel that support from the Wabash Valley, and, people are starting to step up even more, with our collective to give us an opportunity to go out here soon in the transfer portal and be competitive within, the Missouri Valley market. So that's really encouraging.
You and Josh stay in touch? We
do. I'm actually they have a big game tonight with Dayton.
Yeah.
Dayton, but we're going to see. I'll see him tomorrow. We head over tonight. We've got about a 45-minute shoot around at the Enterprise Center, and then we're going to go over for about an hour and a half practice at St. Louis. So I'll get a chance to visit with him a little bit. And I haven't seen him since the summer, but certainly we talk and stay in touch, and obviously rooting for each other.
Well, tell him we said hello. Go get him, and remember what I told you from experience, that first game, you get past that first game. You don't want to be the first one out in the tournament, and that's kind of, unfortunately, that was my experience back in the day. So make sure.
I'm absolutely agreeing with you. We're there. I told our team we packed for 5 nights, so we're ready to roll.
Push this thing forward, and stay in touch, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it, JMV.
You got it. Matthew Graves, the head coach of Indiana State. 1 o'clock on Thursday. It's game 1 of Arch Madness, Sycamores and the Salukis of Southern Illinois. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Chris Denari, top of the 5 o'clock hour. Mary J. Blige tickets we'll give away. Have you noticed there's some weirdness going on? Is this just on Facebook? There's like some comments that are made like they're listening to something different. Sounds like it's political in there. Is it political inside
the lounge?
I don't know what these are. Facebook messages that are coming up right now that are very political. Somebody wants to punch me in the face about something I said, and what? Something political.
I mean, would that be political, or is?
Well, this person get his ass whipped, but I don't think this person is directing that to me. I just kind of wonder, are they listening to
They might be.
A mixing of feeds across the hall? Does somebody want to whip Hammer's ass?
I haven't seen anything about that.
I don't know either. Just curious. Doesn't matter, though. Just the more the merrier. Bring it all in. I just didn't know what they were talking about in there. It was weird. Quick break. We'll come back. Again, Mary J. Blige tickets. Chris Denari, Rockets, Pacers later on tonight. Boilers, Rutgers, IU, Oregon. A full recap on that tomorrow, and less than a week away from the legalized tampering in free agency and the direction in which the Colts are going to go at the quarterback competition. Any thoughts on that? 239-1070, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Hell no, I'm not talking about tariffs. The hell do you think you're listening to? Yeah. Yeah. And that's not going to be it ever. We got our wires crossed, I think. That's funny, though. Hey, the Eagles make Saquon Barkley the NFL's top paid running back. That makes a lot of sense right there. Devontae Adams going to get cut by the Jets if it's not already been concrete. That's going to be going down. And if you missed this last night, late last night, the announcement that Kyrie Irving has a torn ACL. He is out for the season. I'm trying to imagine what else and how worse things could have gone for Nico Harrison and the Mavericks after the Luka deal. Could it have gone much worse here? Absolutely incredible. Now, look what the team was a year ago, too. It's incredible. And Kyrie Irving done for the season. JMV, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how much money you think the Colts will offer to bring in the quarterback competition? Is it going to be more than Flacco from a year ago? Listen, you have to have a competent backup. Make no mistake about it. But again, this whole bringing in competition stuff, nah. I mean, really, you're just looking at one dude and one dude only. And if the game isn't better, then it is going to continue to be a tremendous failure, and it's all over. If it is, we'll have to judge it for whatever level that it is. I saw where Mike Chappell sent this out of CBS 4 and Fox 59 a little bit earlier. I'm talking myself into Daniel Jones being the best option in an offseason with largely unattractive options to bring in a veteran quarterback. But you also have other teams out there vying for an equally unattractive backup quarterback option. Again, this competition thing is baloney, BS. It's not real. And it all comes down to a third-year quarterback that, you hope finally gets it. And again, as I've talked about, there's plenty of evidence not to buy it, and certainly not to buy it until you come close to seeing it. JMV, I completely agree with you regarding IU, and I think Don Fisher stated this before on your show, is that the three Hoosier State kids have really helped lift this team up to become a more consistent squad as of late. That, too, and thank you, James, for that. Not my James, but the James here. Thank you, James, for that. The other aspect of it is they've left a lot on the table this season. And they've left a lot on the table in terms of not being able to close games at all. I mean, being really, how many? More than a handful of games, right? Where they've been an absolute mess at the tail end. So not just not closing, but just yakking it up in general. I don't know. I know that Lenardi states it, and I guess all the other so-called bracket gurus are stating that they're solidly in the field. But, man, I wouldn't want to jack with any of this stuff right now. Plus, you just want to continue to play a level of basketball that you hope as an IU fan you're getting used to. You hope that they're getting used to that. Think about it. For the first time in how long? They're getting a lot of love. You don't have to open up social media, which they do, and they do constantly, and see everybody berating you. Every fat dude, every skinny dude, every dude that's never played, every dude that started in high school, everybody got at you, and now it's just kind of, sit back and you watch them play and you think they're getting better. And then, as I've said before, you got a fan base that looks at that and you want to see them go to the tournament. Well, you want to see who they end up selecting as their next head coach. I mean, really, for this group in this moment right now, there's nothing perfect about this whatsoever. But this is as close to as good as you can ask for, given the circumstances leading up to it. Because you're not going to have a question whether or not Mike Woodson's going to return. You're going to get a new head coach. And you got a team right now that, at least as of late, looks like that they're going to go, if they're going to go down, they're going to go down swinging, which didn't seem like that was the case earlier. The part makes you feel good. Brian writes this, the JMV, any vet that's brought in could make AR look bad. Maybe it's needed. Daniel Jones would look better and cost what or cause? You're asking cause? Listen, there's the thing that you have to understand is you can talk about the competition. You're going to see the competition. You're going to see whatever backup quarterback they bring in because it's inevitable, because we have not seen Richardson stay healthy. What you're not going to see is any legitimate competition about who's going to start the regular season. If Richardson's healthy, he's going to start. I can't imagine there being any scenario whatsoever where you have a backup veteran, or your belief or not, that is going to allow the Colts to pull the plug on Richardson to start the season. Nothing. This is going to be his season. It's not going to be like last year where for 2 games, you slap Richardson on the hand and say, well, you got to learn a little bit better. You got to be earlier. You got to stay later. You don't really get what it means to be in that level of leadership playing that position in the NFL. It wasn't so much about that as it was about we think Joe Flacco can give this team what is needed right now and win games more than Richardson can. And believe me, they felt the same way about Gardner Minshew. Even when we knew that Richardson wasn't coming back in year number 1. And that's where the competition, that's where there's no competition. It's going to be him or it. I mean, if there's going to be a competition, then you should have gone ahead and pulled the rug out from under everything. Why are we going through this right now if there's a competition? Why are we going through it? If you're unsure right now, if you're unsure before you see him in year number 3, before he goes to training camp, before he has an off-season, there's just zero way. If there is going to be a competition, then you should have just pulled the plug prior to and realized what a lot of us realized. This is the only way you can truly prove that you're accurate or you're right about this decision. Anybody imagine, no matter if it's Daniel Jones or Jacoby Brissett, I'm not suggesting that's who they're going to go after. I'm just going after the Jeremy Fowler reported names from last week. Or Trey Lance. Can you imagine? Any of those 3? Yeah, here's week number 1. There's your starter. Then why are you going through all this? Why have you not already reset it? That'd be my question. All right, quick break. We'll come back with you. Chris Denari at the top of the hour. The ultra-talented Rockets. The youth, the inexperience, but the level of talent. That's in town later on tonight to face the Pacers. By the way, you had 3 of their main dudes that sat it out last night. We'll check the injury report to see who's going to give that a go coming up later on tonight. By the way, they used predominantly deep bench players late in that loss last night at OKC. Jalen Green being one that sat a majority of the fourth. If not the entirety of the fourth. Sat a lot of the second half. Denari, top of the 5 o'clock hour. Mary J. Blige tickets coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, too. Real Love, her classic song from 1992, 1993. That's your re-entry. And if you're number 9 when you hear that, you'll get 2 tickets to see Mary J. Blige, the queen of R&B hip-hop, coming to Gainbridge Fieldhouse in April. All right, quick break. We'll come back with you on the other side. Do not go anywhere. Lots of college hoop, lots of NBA, and more on the Colts. And again, free agency, which is on the immediate horizon right here. Discussion, don't go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. James over there, I'm John. This question from Greg. So journeyman quarterbacks have been better than Richardson for 2 years now. What makes us think that this year will be any different? That's 100% accurate. That's why most of us feel the way that we do. Now, you're going to be watching the way this plays out. But the more you look at it, if you look at it from that perspective, aren't you left wondering why you feel the need to go through this? Would you be going through this if the quarterback market was a little more robust right now? If you had more coming out of college right now? I mean, we're talking about some very low-level options. I mean, consider what we should be talking about. That's what's so incredibly disappointing about the entirety of the situation. To me, anyway. It's from Jimmy, JMV. DeAndre Hunter came up big in OT last night for the Cavaliers. The Pacers, not serious about winning a championship. They could have had him easily. It does look like that the Cavaliers are in a much better situation when they made that deal to make a run than the Pacers are. I will say this, Jimmy. I know this is not going to, because everybody wants to win and win right now. But I think there's going to be further evaluation with this team, considering they got to the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago, on how it plays out this year. And again, the landscape's going to be much different. You're going to play. You're probably not going to have teams that are as banged up and as injured as they faced a year ago, but the fact remains they did end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. And they did decide to run it back. And to this point, I think most people are happy with it, but this offseason, about what they accomplished this year, and then you put these last two seasons together, that is what is going to explain, Jimmy, the tale of it. You know, what they end up doing with Miles, what they end up doing, is you're going to have to make decisions. So at some point, Jez Walker's either going to play or he's not going to play, or he's going to play someplace else. I mean, something's going to happen. You're going to have to dial in to Matherin full-time. But I still think you evaluate with this group on what you're doing in the now and what you're doing down the stretch of the regular season and then into the postseason. And then we'll see ultimately what the Cavaliers, what they did was right, if it worked. The Pacers just weren't going to put themselves in that situation because they had dedicated to and really didn't have a great deal of reason at the trade deadline to alter their plan. And we're going to see what we'll be talking about, for example, I'm assuming in late May, right? Hopefully in late May. Hopefully not before that. Thank you, Jimmy, for that. JMV, completely agree regarding IU at this point in time, but my thought is about the Boilermakers. Do you think that they are capable of sustaining from what we saw? It's interesting. We talked about with Chris Kramer, their former guard, last week, and he felt what their need was to get together. The players, with that players-only meeting, Trey Kaufman-Wren put that together, came out, led them in that win against UCLA, and you hope that they're able to maintain. The problem is, I think some of what hampers them is also going to be able to maintain. What I mean by this is I want to see them put a couple together, and even beyond Rutgers later on tonight, you really want to see what they can do on Friday night. That is tough. Tuesday night at home against Rutgers, and then Friday night on the road in Illinois, considering what the Illini did to Dusty's team in Michigan on Sunday. So to me, it's not even so much tonight as it's going to be how they look on the road in a tough environment coming up on Friday night. Explain that on the other side. We'll get to that. IU Oregon tonight as well. And the Pacers and the Rockets. The Rockets a loser last night at OKC. And again, three of their frontliners, Sengun, Brooks, and Thompson, did not play. A lot of their frontliners sat late in that game, and really the backups, too, maintained a short distance with OKC, and that was a 50-plus point night for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. As impressive as that was, no loss is great, but you look at it and you go, wow, with the group that they were playing, they were able to maintain. They're here tonight. 7P, 6:30 coverage begins right here. That follows with your pregame show, Anything Goes. 93 WIBC has IU and Oregon coming up later on tonight. That's an 8 o'clock pregame show, 9 o'clock the tip. From Eugene later on tonight, Mary J. Blige, tickets, Chris Denari, our conversation, Anything Goes. I want a loaded 5 o'clock hour at 239-1070. We'll do that with you coming up next.
his crummy snobatorium, but his whole place sucks. That's right, it sucks.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So we have, well, anything goes coming up at 6 tonight. Time on the clock, what, about 20 minutes or so, probably? Wonderful.
It'll actually be only about 8 minutes
Oh,
because
really?
we have the daily update.
The Colts have a daily update, do they? How long are those lasting? Thank you, guys, for that. Why don't they make it a little bit longer so I don't have to do it all after 6? What the hell? Who's in charge of that? The length of the Colts daily update.
Well, I'm sure they don't want to do it as much as you don't want to stick around till 6:28.
All we have to do is ask Gorman one question, and hell, he can sink about 8 minutes in an answer right there. Corbin writes this, JMV, the tinfoil conspiracy. Are you ready? Could all the Colts maneuvering just be Irsay getting ready to draft Arch Manning in 26? And Corbin, I did not get your email, so you need to fire that bad boy off again. Corbin won Dave Matthews Band tickets, and then his phone disconnected, and somebody else got them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to find some Dave Matthews Band tickets for Corbin right here.
No.
Because did you have that situation occur last week?
Yeah, he called in, I
Week
got his
before
name,
last.
and then disconnected, and he never called back.
So I'm
going
to make sure we take care of Corbin. We don't like that. And believe me, those that support the show, those at Live Nation, those that give us tickets to give away, they completely understand that, Corbin. But I did not get the email. And believe me, I just opened my email for the first time in forever earlier today, so that may be the reason why. But fire another one off, and no, to answer your question, there is no conspiracy. There is a firm belief with the Colts in Richardson, and that is just something that, with the evidence we have seen, I don't get, and a lot of others agree with me. Plus, you're just kind of sitting and soaking in it right now. And the problem is, so are you, the fans. You're sitting and soaking in it. I'm going to tell you, it is going to be interesting. I don't want to hear about, well, we went after, or it's going to take two to tango, or any of that BS. If you hard target somebody in free agency, or you hard target Tyler Warren in the draft, would you go get their ass? Go get them. Don't tell us later how you tried. I'm assuming a lot of other people tried. Execute your plan. For goodness sake. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Friend of the show, the voice of the Pacers. Pacers TV tonight, 7 o'clock. The tip, 6:30 coverage begins. It is the Rockets and the Pacers at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Chris Denari joins us. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, John. Just right at my seat as Rockets are out here, individual work, Miles Turner and T.J. McConnell out on the floor here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So just getting ready.
So I was watching the Rockets last night. There was no Brooks, no Sengun, there was no Thompson. What are the word on these three guys tonight? Plus, they sat some of their frontliners late in that game against OKC and still maintained because Whitmore was really good. They got a lot of help off that bench last night as well. What's the status on the guys you normally see in the second of a back-to-back for them?
I think all those guys play. The only guy that is listed as out is Fred VanVleet. So he's been bothered by an ankle sprain. He's only played a handful of games in the last month. So they've played a lot of games without him, but all those other guys will be back. I think in a back-to-back situation, that's what they opted to do. Whitmore played really well. Reed Shepard had a career high last night. This is a very deep Houston team. Sengun did not play last night. Jalen Green did. But
he sat a lot in the fourth, though, if not the entirety of the fourth last night.
No, you're right. I watched as well. And, this is a situation where if you look at the Pacers out of the All-Star break, at home, they've got four of the top teams of the West. They beat Memphis. They beat the Clippers. They lost to Denver. And now, like the Pacers are the fifth seed right now, or tied for fourth with Milwaukee. Houston is in the 5 spot in the Western Conference. So this is a very talented team. They've struggled a little bit. They're only 5-10 over their last 15 games. At one point, or 5-15, I think. At one point, they were some 20 games over 500. So it's still a good team. Very athletic. One of the issues the Pacers had back earlier in the year in November is the turnovers leading to points off turnovers. Houston had 30 points off Pacer turnovers. So that's their ability to turn you over, get out quickly, and that's how they make you pay.
Yeah, they lost 6 in a row going back to late January and into the early portion of February. So, yeah, you're talking about a team that had a fantastic season and then at that point hit a major bump in the road.
Yeah, I think, last 15 games they're 5-10. Again, Van Vliet has missed a number of those games. But this is still a very talented team that, the Pacers, this ends a stretch of 6 out of 7 at home. And then 6 out of the next 7 are on the road. Before the end of the regular season is pretty favorable for the Pacers. 11 of their final 15 games will be here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But as you know, the month of March is very busy here, not just for the Pacers, but you have the girls' state finals, you've got the boys' state finals, you've got the men's and women's Big Ten tournaments here. So March is always a time when the Pacers find themselves on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, it's no doubt about that. Voice of the Pacers on TV, Chris Denari, live from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. As you can hear in the background, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we discussed this prior to the All-Star break. Just give these guys, with the exception of Siakam, a huge nap. Give them a lot of rest. And at the top of that list with Tyrese Halliburton, and he has come out of the All-Star break playing at a level which certainly is very high and incredibly expected by most around here.
Yeah, I would think the only other month that he had a better run was last November, leading into the in-season tournament. That was that November into December where he averaged about 28 points per game. But you're right, the last 6 out of the All-Star break, 5 straight double-doubles. His assist-to-turnover ratio is over 11, 69 assists to 6 turnovers. He's had just 1 in each of the last 6 games. He's shooting the ball over 60% and 50% from three-point range. So absolutely, I think, the break did wonders for him. Aaron Nesmith is playing very well right now, 5 of his last 6 in double figures. He was big the other night in the Chicago win. He had 27, 13 in the third quarter. So I just thought that the time off was important for this team. I think 2 things have happened this year. They got that break during the in-season tournament. Over a 2-week period, they got some practice time and I think recalibrated, and they've been a different team since. And I think for individuals, when you're playing, 50-some-odd games, I think that ability to get away during the All-Star break for, not quite a week was very important for this group.
Hey, Chris, the tale of 2 situations, as we mentioned with Halliburton, is 1 with rest. But you mentioned Nesmith and his game against the Bulls. You wanted to see him get back in the flow, the swing, and it looks like right now that's the way he is feeling. Offensively, I mean, obviously you could tell defensively that he is moving around as he normally does, but the shot now has returned, and offensively you can tell he's a guy that's certainly used to being back in the flow, out on the floor again.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy that was well over 40% from three-point range last year, and as he came back from his injury, remember, he missed 35 games. He missed from November the 1st till the end of January. And so I just think his ability to feel confident on that ankle. I talked to him in the locker room a few games ago, and I said, how do you feel? He goes, I just feel like I can take chances. I can do things that I wasn't able to do those first few weeks when I came back. And all of those things affect your game, and especially your lift on your jump shot. And so he's shooting it at a very high level now. He was 6 of 11 from 3 the other night. And those 3 threes he had in the third quarter in that big Pacers run, that was critical to the Pacers' win against the Bulls.
He's Chris Denari, Pacers TV on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What's the Matherin situation as of right now then moving forward?
Well, Rick is meeting. He was listed as doubtful, and I haven't seen if that's been moved either way to out or probable. But he was listed as doubtful, which is better than out, right? But I'm sure that here in about 5 minutes, Rick Carlisle will address that as well.
Are the Pacers 0-5 on Tuesdays?
That's a good question. I'd have to look back. I know that
Skivvies, who I prominent on my social media account X, states the Pacers are 0-5 on Tuesdays.
Well, I know they've had 2 TNT Thursday games that I haven't done that have not gone well.
Yeah, those normally suck. Here. Yes, you're right about that. Yeah,
the Knicks game here and the Cavaliers game. So Yeah, that very well could be. They don't play a lot of Tuesday games, but that's one of those that I'll look at. I'll hesitate to use that though if they are truly 0-6.
Yeah, that's no doubt about that. I want to go back to that Miami game on Friday. I know that's further in the rear view here, but it is worth noting. One stopper here or there you could have mixed in. I hate thinking that they got sunk late by a lack of a goaltend call and a 3 by Davion Mitchell. That still gets to me.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that call was missed. I mean, our replay showed it. Clearly the ball had hit the glass and then a hand hit the glass. That's goaltending in every NBA rule book, but it did not go the Pacers' way. And unfortunately, John, that turned out to be a 4-point play because Miami went down the other way and scored. So instead of being up 1, you were down 3. And then, Davion Mitchell coming over from Toronto has played very well for Miami. He really fits the way they want to play. I mean, we laugh about it. When you think about Heat culture, I think Davion Mitchell is one of those guys. And I thought the Pacers did everything they needed to do on that possession. You got to get it out of Tyler Hero's hands and, make somebody like Davion Mitchell beat you, and unfortunately for the Pacers, he did. I thought the Pacers played pretty well that night. We can talk about defense. They gave up a lot of points, but so too did Miami. I mean, Miami's a good defensive team, and, that's a tough place to play. So, I came out of there, not feeling bad. I mean, disappointed that the Pacers lost, but know that, that's a tough place to play. Miami has some good players, and you got to get them the next time you play them.
So, Chris Denari, who joins us, I'd mentioned this before. You go through the season in which the schedule was difficult. You go to Europe and play in Paris. You had to get through that, and then 2 games after you get back, you go out west for 4 games. So they've gone through that, and I think now this is the part to where you reap the benefits of the schedule, and you ramp things up to build that momentum to get into the postseason. And that's why I think a game like tonight against a really high-level team like Houston, very talented team like Houston, is very important because we have those level of expectations, and you really want to see them fire off against a good team because this is a very important time of year. And I think that begins tonight on a Tuesday night where this team is 0-5 against, again, a very talented Rockets team.
No, you're right. And when you look at the standings, I mean, that battle for 4, 5, 6, I mean, the Pacers and the Bucks right now are tied, but courtesy of 2 Milwaukee wins, they have the tiebreaker for 4. And then Detroit just won't lose. I mean, they're out west right now. You're hopeful that those Western Conference teams give the Pacers some help, but the Pistons are only a half game behind Indiana. Now, the Pacers have the tiebreaker there by virtue of a 3-1 regular season, but you're right. What you would hope, John, is that you could put yourself in position that when you get to those final 15 games and you have 11 at home, that you can take advantage of that. And you were sort of questioning that back in December when you were 10-15, but give this group a lot of credit. They turned things around. They've got the 5th best record in the NBA since the calendar turned to 2025. They've done a good job on the road. They've taken care of business at home. But again, you're right. Tonight will be an important game because this is a very good team. And even though it's the second night of a back-to-back, they had a lot of guys get a lot of rest last night. So it's sort of not your typical back-to-back that a team is facing tonight because so many of those guys didn't play last night.
Anything at all? I don't think so. I've not even brought it up. But I didn't think there was anything you could really equate to the first time these two teams met way back before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, because when you look at it, there was no Neesmith, there was no Shepard. That's the time the Pacers were playing without Shepard, Neesmith, and Nembhard. Quentin Jackson got his first career start and scored 24 points. Enrique Freeman was playing. And again, no disrespect to those 2 guys because they did a nice job filling in. But those are 2 players on 2-way contracts that were expected to play much of their year with the Indiana Mad Ants. So, yeah, a little bit, it's hard to look at that game and give it context other than the fact that you saw a very good Houston team that is very athletic. They get in passing lanes, and they will force turnovers. And, And that's what the Pacers need to make sure they overcome tonight.
Yeah, and solidify. Where do you start? Matchup-wise, what's most intriguing? You and Quinn and Eddie and JJ we'll talk about here on the pregame.
Well, I mean, you look at Thompson, Amen Thompson has really played well for Houston. He's a guy that at times they will start in the backcourt if Fred VanVleet's not playing. I'll be interested to see what they do based on how Whitmore and Reed Shepherd played last night. Are those two guys that are going to somehow find their way into the rotation? And then the other guy, he's terrific, is Şengün. He's an international player that can score. He can pass. He sees the floor. We all talk about Jokic in Denver, but there are a lot of other talented big men that do a lot of the same things. So, the Pacers will have to focus on that as well.
And out of the field house after tonight for 3 straight, back-to-back in Atlanta Thursday, Saturday, United Center, Chicago on Monday, and then back here where we're going to get used to seeing Giannis in Milwaukee beginning next Tuesday. So, yeah, it might as well get right on this Tuesday because you got another one coming up next week.
Yeah, I don't like to hear that 0-5. That will be erased from my lexicon.
Will you bring that up on the pregame show?
No, I'm not on the pregame show. So,
no, you're not?
I'm not on from 6:30 to 7.
No, your stand-up. I should say will you bring that up in your stand-up with Quinn?
No, I'll pass on that. For those that are watching, I'll tease. Our stand-up, we will be talking about Aaron Nesmith and Tyrese Halliburton. And then the second segment, right before tip-off, will be Eddie and JJ talking about the Rockets. So, maybe that 0-5 will come up at some point. Hopefully it comes up with the Pacers well ahead, and I can say they're getting their first win on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you got the next one against Milwaukee, and you're right about the Pistons. My goodness. They've won 2 consecutive after, winning 8 or 9 straight prior to that, and they look legit. And really, it almost, not quite, but almost coincides with that loss at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Pacers. It was a couple of games after that in which they took off on that win streak.
Yeah, I said this on opening night. We were in Detroit. They added Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, and Tim Hardaway Jr. And I came out of that game, and the Pacers had to rally. If you remember, they had to rally in the fourth quarter to win on opening night. And I said, this is not the same Detroit that we've seen the last couple of years. J.B. Bickerstaff's done a really good job. And as we saw here in Indianapolis, and we saw then when the Pacers beat them in Detroit, they play with an attitude. And to some extent, I think it's healthy. It's great to have a rivalry. The Pacers created that again with New York and Milwaukee last year. But this is a Detroit team that is very, very talented and built for the future. I mean, they've got the veterans surrounded by Cade Cunningham, and they've done this, John, with Jaden Ivey out. I was not sure how this group would respond in whole with Ivey, one of their best young players, not playing, but they've been very, very good.
I did want to ask you this before we closed, and we'll end with Tyrese Halliburton. And Tyrese Halliburton coming out of the All-Star break. How incredible has this run been in terms of assists to turnovers, which is startling?
69 to 6. 69 assists to 6 turnovers. That is an assist to turnover percentage of 11 to 1. Right now, he's second in the NBA on the year at 5 to 1, only behind Chris Paul. And so, what we're seeing, you just don't see very often. And, he's still averaging, as I said, around 20 points per game in this stretch and shooting it at a high level. So it's really good to see. I mean, John, right now, he is shooting the 3 on the season better percentage-wise than he shot last year. And I think some people get lost maybe with the way the season started and some of the single-digit games that he had. But he is shooting the basketball better than he did a year ago. Now, let's go back to that Houston game back in November. That's one of his 10 games this year where he was in single digits. I mean, he only had 4 points against this Houston team. And they're going to put a lot of pressure on him. They're going to put a lot of size on him. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not Amen Thompson
Yeah.
at 6'8" or 6'9" is guarding him. But I do think this Pacers team has evolved a lot since that point.
Here's what I think about his game, too. He's essential, and we know this because he gets everybody else kickstarted, and he also has to bring his high level of offensive game. And you could tell he was going through some patches there offensively where he just wasn't quite sure or as confident in his own level of offense. And that's, to me, is what has been drastically different about his game after the All-Star break.
Yes, I think his ability to confidence in shooting the perimeter shot, but more importantly, his ability to get to the rim. And that's when he can do that, then he is a tough handle, because as a defender out on the perimeter, he can bait you and step inside and hit that step back three. But at the same point, if you're the defender, he may go past you, and he's either going to look to score or look to pass. So absolutely, it's the Tyrese that we all know exists. It just took a little while for that to sort of kick in this year. And to that extent, John, I mean, he's facing defenses that are much more geared to him this year than last year. I mean, they've all made adjustments in how they want to defend him in 2024-25 than what we saw a year ago.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And that's where this team, because they've been together, you need to see them evolve in that capacity as well. And at least recently, we've certainly seen that. All right, no 0-5 on Tuesdays brought up here in your stand-up here to start the game, okay?
No, that will not be a part of the 3-minute stand-up tonight on FanDuel Sports
We'll
Network.
blame that on TNT. What's his name, Jared Goldberg or Greenberg or whatever reason? We'll blame that on him.
Yeah, we could. I mean, all good guys. I mean, Spiro Ditas and that kind of stuff. That might be something they might
we
say,
love Spiro too, but we may
do.
have to chastise him a little bit for that mark.
Yeah. So I will avoid that at all costs.
All right, buddy. Have a great call tonight. We'll check in again soon.
All right. Thanks, John.
Chris Denari, Pacers television later on tonight. 6:30 coverage begins. 7:00 tip time. Cambridge Fieldhouse. As Skivvy said, I did not look this up. Pacers are 0-5 on Tuesdays. I guess I just could have looked at it quickly. Tuesday night, let's see. Here's a Tuesday night loss. There's one to the Knicks. Chris brought that up. There's a Tuesday night loss in Portland. There's a Tuesday night loss in Cleveland. There's a Tuesday night loss in Milwaukee, where I got 3 right there. Ooh, a Tuesday night loss in Toronto. And where's that other one here? Which one did I miss? I thought I had 4 of the 5 right there. 5 in all. 0-5 on Tuesdays. Well done, Skivvies, right there with that. I can't find. Where can I not find the other one here? Weird. Those, if memory serves, were not enjoyable performances either. It's not, when you lose, it's not enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to freshen it up in that capacity, but those would be some of those games to where you were incredibly disappointed. As opposed to just mildly disappointed, right? Yeah, come on, numbnuts. What are you talking about? All right. See if they can change that up. Again, the expectations are there, and this is a gauge game. And as Chris mentioned, you go over the last month, were they 5-10? They went through a stretch where they lost at the end of January, early February, 6 consecutive. But this is a talented group. 7P, tip time. 6:30 coverage begins right here on The Fan later on tonight as well. That follows some Anything Goes, which is coming at you at the top of the hour. All right, I got time for you now at 239-1070. The email address is jmv1075thefan.com. So we are learning, and people talked about Matthew Stafford. I never even considered that as he's going back to the Rams. It looks like Sam Darnold is going to work out some sort of deal with Minnesota. I never really considered that either. As of this weekend, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, your consideration would be that of Daniel Jones, Trey Lance, and former Colts quarterback Jacoby Brissett. I can't imagine anybody's floating that boat. Well, we'll get to that. And free agency at its level, should it start with sinking a lot of money in the safety and corner position? And we don't want to hear at the tail end that we tried, but. 239-1070. You and me, Mary J. Blige tickets also forthcoming before the end of this show. Sit tight. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Well, not really. I felt it on my leg. Come on, I don't want to see it.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right. So the Pacers are 0-5 on Tuesdays. No Benedict Mathurin later on tonight. He has been ruled out here in the last 10 or so minutes. Actually, while we were in break, Rick Carlisle met with the media. Tony East on his social media account, X, states that Benedict Mathurin is out tonight. By the way, Tony does add Mathurin had a good workout yesterday. We'll have an enhanced session tomorrow. First game in Atlanta is a chance. Quote, he's had things going on. This left wrist thing has been bothering him for weeks. No Benedict Mathurin later on tonight. So, hey, I've got a combination for you. You've got Jarris Walker coming off that Mad Ants game, little triple-double. You got Jarris Walker from where? Houston. How about a little bench activity and a step up in a major situation from Jarris Walker later on tonight? Can we count on it? Can you count on it? They're going to need it. And as Chris Denari stated, everybody but Van Vliet should be good to go later on tonight for Houston. So there you go. 7 o'clock tip time, 6:30 coverage begins right here on The Fan. I've got full-scale conversation about that tomorrow. James, I'm talking to Gene Simmons tomorrow. Is that
Kiss?
what I hear? Yeah. Huh? Do I say from Kiss?
I mean, I think
because they're not still together. They're done, aren't they? Are they done, or are they just not touring ever again?
Well, I thought
they probably will.
I thought they retired, but I don't think they had broken up or there was any bad feelings or anything.
Do you remember when he got paid to come up with the I Am Indy song and slogan back in the day in IndyCar? I Am Indy, Gene Simmons.
I did not know that.
He basically transformed a Kiss song into I Am Indy and got paid handsomely for it. So I've had Martin Fry of ABC. I've had Howard Jones. I've had Brett Michaels of Poison all say, when I've asked them, they talk up the JMV takeover.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think happens when I ask Gene Simmons this?
It's worth a try. I mean, even if he doesn't
he'll tell me to get bent and he'll want paid.
Even if he doesn't talk it up, it'll be a good quote.
And
I think it would be funny.
And I'll still be taping it. And I'll still play it.
Oh yeah,
if
it'll
he
be
says
usable.
no, your show sucks and I need to get paid for it, I'll still play it as a reentry.
It'll still be good content.
By the way, Gene's going to be at the Brown County Music Center coming up.
And yeah, they retired in 2023, I believe. But
I saw that last show. It was a year ago in November.
Mm-hmm.
Hagen and I went to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. It was actually fun as hell. That's the first time I waited all that time to see Kiss for the first time.
Though apparently they did digital avatars, so now you can catch a fully digital Kiss performance at some place.
I'm sure you could.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you can. That's awesome right there. Gene Simmons. Hey, Gene, would you mind doing I've got the show called the JMV Takeover. You'd be thinking cha-ching, and there's no cha-ching.
Have you ever talked to Gene before?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Last time I talked to him, he was in Finland. True story.
On a tour, I'm assuming?
He's called on this show twice, and last time I talked to him, he was in Finland on tour.
How long ago was that?
We were upstairs in the other studio, I can tell you that.
So a little while.
Yeah, it's been a bit, yeah. Never with Paul, but with Gene twice. Oh, and he got into Ace and all that. Oh, it's just great.
Now, that's something you should ask him about.
Yeah, I'm sure. That would put him in a good mood. I don't know. He may not even care about that anymore, but yeah, good mood stuff right there. All right, 239-1070 is that number. We've got Anything Goes coming up after 6 o'clock for you, and Bill's going to start out on the show here in the 5 o'clock hour. Hello, Bill.
Hey, JMV. I feel that Houston's not going to be able to compete with the Pacers tonight when we use our second unit. I mean, it's just, if you're depleted, or you've got reduced manpower or whatnot. I just don't see how Houston is going to be able to compete with us. But I did want to mention one thing to you, kind of a historic day today in sports history.
Sports history from Billy. Yeah. Go ahead, buddy.
President Trump has issued a pardon posthumously to Pete Rose for federal tax evasion, and Rob Manfred has petitioned the Hall of Fame to allow Pete Rose to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
The only difference is that usually it's the baseball writers that determine who gets into the Hall of Fame, but they're going to petition the Eras Committee, which is that committee that considers players that, from like the 1920s and 30s and whatnot that people aren't that familiar with. So there's kind of some backdoor maneuvering a little bit, but long overdue for Pete Rose. One of the favorite things about Pete Rose is he actually played all 9 positions during a game where he just played all the positions, and then he.
Who's he think he is? Jose Akendo?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he also made the All-Star team at 5 different positions: first base, left field,
third
right
base.
field,
yeah,
third base. Yeah, so it really is a long past due for Pete Rose. So
you remember when he played? And I tried to strike this from my memory, but when he played for Philadelphia, especially in 1980 when they won the World Series, when they got the third out at first, and he would spike the baseball on the AstroTurf. He'd spike it anywhere, but especially on the Veterans Stadium AstroTurf, that was always pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that, and that's a team that you kind of forget about as far as a great baseball team. But they had Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, Greg Luzinski, and I think Steve Carlton was their pitcher.
I think they have Gary Matthews, Gary Maddox. I think Bob Boone the catcher. They had Steve Carlton. Obviously, was their best pitcher, their starter. Tug McGraw was the reliever back then. I was a big George Brett fan, so I remember that because Kansas City lost in the 1980 World Series to the Philadelphia Phillies.
I remember that series very, very well, and I just hope that. I really hope that he gets in. There's no reason, and President Trump even called his family and let his surviving children and everything know that this was going to be coming. So they just have to let him in. It's time. It's just time for him to get in the Hall of Fame.
Billy, I will see you again very soon. I don't know if I'm going to see you this week because I don't know if we're still on the schedule this week, but I'll let you know when we are.
Right on, brother. Let's see you then.
You got it, man. Ramon is at 239-1070 right now. Hello, Ramon.
Hey, how you doing, JMV?
Hello, Ramon. It sounds like I'm in that Seinfeld episode with Ramon.
I'm going to take it right off. All right, get right on it. Yeah, how you doing, JMV?
I'm great, Ramon. How are you?
You know how it is with this hands-free, man. We can't get these tickets, but I'm going to mention this. I echo the other one. I met Pete Rose, them in '76. My mother had some. And we got invited to the Big Red Machine down there.
Oh, man.
It was just fantastic. It just let them.
Those were the days. I found myself, by the way, watching the Reds last night. They were playing the Brewers in the Cactus League. I was watching a little bit of that last night.
Right. Here's my thing I'll get to my comment. Here's my thing I always had consternation about. You claim you barred him for gambling on baseball as a manager, but he would have been going into the Hall of Fame as a player, and he never did nothing wrong or supposedly anything wrong as a player. So I figured it was just odd right there. He didn't throw any games or anything as a player. So, but going back to your Pacers, your coach thing.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Jones in my garbage. Let's stop playing around. He had plenty of time in New York. We could see he's nothing. This is not a reclamation project like maybe Baker Mayfield or nothing like that. It's not going to happen. But I like Malik Willis at Green Bay. He was 4-0 during last year. He won all his games. He had to fill in for Jordan Love, and he looked spectacular.
Right. I mean, you can't play against the Colts every week, though, right?
I'm telling you, and that's right, he did look good against it. And if you look at the comments from the people in Tennessee, they abhorred that trade that they sent to Green Bay, and they kept what was this guy? What's the guy's name? They kept
Will Levis.
Yeah. Well, the people in Tennessee hated that trade. They all down there thought Malik Willis should have been given that job in the first place. So maybe if they really want a competition, send a third-round pick up there to Green Bay and bring Malik Willis in. He can play. He looks spectacular. And then let's not forget, Shane Steichen, for some sort of reason, he's just fallen off. We saw what Philadelphia has done. Jalen Hurts went through all the criticism, yet in the playoffs, he did what he was supposed to do, beat Mahomes and everything else. So if he's supposed to be this guru, then there's no way in the world in year 3 that Richardson should be in this shape. And
no, it's definitely time to guru, Ramon, if that's what you're getting at right here. It's time to guru. Yes.
And thanks for taking my call. But Patriots at 3. You like him at 3 or 4?
Well, one more time. Oh, and the 3. I hope they get. I hope they get to 4. But man, they got teams right now. The Bucs are just a little bit in front of them, and the Pistons are breathing down their necks. So you got to be able to maintain here. So I'm hoping 4. They're not going to get to 3.
All right, thanks, buddy.
You got it, Ramon. Thank you very much. Yeah, you better start guruing here. Let's get the guru to guru, because we can't call you a guru if you don't guru. All right, let's get some calls going. We said 8 minutes of anything goes, so we better hustle some ass up here. 8 minutes before the Colts Daily Update. By the way, this whole Colts Daily Update thing, how can you not give me 8 minutes more here? I mean, what the hell? Who do I yell at about that?
Well, it would actually be more like 14 minutes because there's a 6-minute break.
And then you ask Gorman 2 questions.
Yeah.
And then he goes on for 14 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be pretty simple formula here, would it not? No.
One could say.
We got anything goes at the top of the hour, about 8 minutes. So, again, hustle in here. We'll talk at you. Tomorrow's recap of what is a busy Tuesday. Now, one of the busier Tuesday nights in hoop we've seen in a while. We are on the fringe of the end of the regular season in college basketball. The Hoosiers look to maintain and winning. So do the Boilermakers, IU and Eugene, Oregon later on tonight. Purdue at home against Rutgers. And the Rockets and the Pacers tip at 7 o'clock from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Hopefully, we have some good stuff to talk about on tomorrow's show. Before that, we'll close out this segment next, and we'll hit you with a little 8 minutes of anything goes after 6 o'clock. Stay right there. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Are you kidding?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right. Let's go number 9 at 239-1070 right now. Anybody want to go see Mary J. Blige? That's going to be an awesome show, by the way. The For My Fans tour. Absolutely incredible stuff. Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Monday, April the 21st. Massive tour. Oh, the queen of R&B and hip-hop, Mary J. Blige. Number 9 at 239-1070 will go. And will go on us all week long. We give you the opportunity to do just that. Yeah, I know. Busy Hoops Night. I tried to explain that a little bit earlier. You get a lot happening. We got a full-scale reaction. Iron Eagle, the voice of the Final Four. Hear him on TNT. On CBS, Iron Eagle's going to join us on the show coming up tomorrow. I think Bowen's on the show tomorrow. And Dustin DePurak covers the Pacers. Probably have to get a little IU and a little Boilermaker reaction for you tomorrow as well. Yeah, and I don't know about the rest of the week. It looks like my schedule is clear, which is unfortunate because I'll miss you guys a great deal being out live. We shall see, and we also have some stuff coming up that I promise in the month of March, or later on, I should say, because we're here. But later on in the month of March, you guys are absolutely going to love. We're going to fall in love all over again together with hoops and sports. And as Larry Bird once famously said, "Stifficat." Hey, by the way, too, I'm trying to get Catherine Legg on the show later on this week, being a part of NASCAR. Coming up, too. If I can work that. Former producer Tony Donahue is supposed to be formerly producing right now for that. Tony D, where are you? All right, 239-1070. I know James is talking up the winner right now. Hey, James, really quick, let me get to Fulton here before the top of the hour. Fulton, you got a sore elbow. Fulton, are you hurt?
Yeah, I am.
What happened? Did you hyperextend your elbow or something in your basketball game?
Yeah, I might have did. I fell and playing some defense, and then I just, it's.
Oh, bummer. So what happened? Yeah. You're not in a cast, or you're not in a cast or anything, are you?
I'm in a what's called a I can't remember what it's called, like a
is your arm in a sling?
Yep, it's in the sling.
It's in a sling. Fulton. So you had 40 points, 40 shots, 40 rebounds, 40 passes. You really had a 40-40-40 across the board in your game, but you also came up with a sore elbow.
Yeah, yep.
That's why, see, Fulton, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't get hurt playing defense, man.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, don't do that. That's why defense can be a little bit overrated. You don't want to get hurt playing.
Right. Yep. Well, it was I was trying to get the ball from them, but
yeah.
Were
you in a good defensive stance? Were you moving your feet? Were you sliding left and right? Guarding your yard, as Brad Stevens would tell you to do?
Yeah. Yep, pretty much. So what happened was after we lost our game,
yeah.
It was the second quarter. I tripped, and then, I tripped and fell, and I think somebody tripped me or something like that.
Man.
But
well, you're not tripping. You're not tripping on your own, buddy. We know that. Hey,
no,
you get that elbow to keep that thing in the sling. Get your elbow to feel better. All right.
Yep, I sure will. Hopefully
all right, buddy.
I'll be on the show for us one time.
You got it, Fulton. Good to hear from you. Thanks for the update.
Yep, you're welcome.
Fulton, the part of the 40-40-40-40 club, as we learned yesterday. All right, we got some Anything Goes coming up here, 239-1070. We got 8 minutes of it. Look at Eddie Garrison's already in here. 239-1070, 8 minutes before the Colts Daily Update. So the calm before the storm, and then Pacer pregame after that, bottom of the hour. Anything Goes at 239-1070. That is next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Son, you got a panty on your head. Just drive fast, eh?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, let's do it here. 239-1070. I've got the time. You got the inclination. Anything goes. Let's go ahead and do it. See what you got to say. See what you got to talk about. Vikings don't use the franchise tag on Sam Darnold. Today was that day. Still evidently wanting him back in Minnesota. I don't know if that takes anybody off the board or what regarding the Colts, but that is at least another quarterback we were talking about right here that, people kind of equated to Matthew Stafford being unavailable. I never viewed him as being available in the first place. Kind of feel the same way about Sam Darnold right there. All right, 239-1070. A little anything goes before we get to the Colts daily update, and we got a lot to talk about, even if it's not non-sports related here. You've got a huge Hoops Tuesday night schedule, and we did learn in the last hour, according to Skivvies, that the Pacers are indeed 0-5 on Tuesdays this season. That is a trend that they need to reverse later on tonight. I'm not going to over-premium this game against Houston. This is just one of those gauges where you got a team in Houston that's very talented, second of a back-to-back, and while on the surface you look at that and you say, wow, well, this should be to the advantage of the Pacers. If you watched them last night in OKC, they maintained striking distance and didn't have their dudes in the game. This didn't. No Brooks, no Sengun, no Thompson. These guys didn't play at all. Jalen Green didn't see much time, if any, I don't think, in the fourth. Van Vliet's not playing. I believe that's the only member of the squad that is not playing later on tonight. So they looked last night as if they were kind of putting themselves in a position tonight to play their dudes. And again, as I mentioned, this is going to be an interesting gauge because a talented team, a youthful team out west, and believe me, they've gone through some situations. They've lost 6 in a row, and that was within the last a little over a month or so. Tail end of January into February. But it is a very talented team. First time around, I don't know if you put any bearing, any evaluation. The first time they met was before Thanksgiving, and obviously the Pacers were drastically different then than they are right now. No Benedict Mathurin later on tonight. So that is going to be tough. Maybe for Mathurin, in that first, they've got a Thursday, Saturday coming up in Atlanta against the Hawks. So just maybe. In fact, the next 3 for the Pacers on the road, twice in Atlanta, and then once at the United Center in Chicago versus the Bulls. Back home, that is a week from tonight versus Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. So, yeah, I'm not going to over-prioritize it, but we'll put a little bit more of a premium on a matchup like tonight against a good team, because this is the point in time when you want to see this Pacer team be more consistent, be at a much higher level of consistency against a good team like Houston. So that's how we'll view that later on tonight. Boilermakers in action up in West Lafayette. That tip time's at 7 o'clock against Rutgers. Boilermakers have 2 Big Ten games remaining. They've got that tough Tuesday night to Friday night thing. They go on the road to Illinois and Champaign coming up on Friday night. So you need to take care of Rutgers at home. Of course, the Boilermakers have not played since Friday night when they took care of UCLA at Mackey Arena. Rutgers and Purdue tonight at 7 o'clock. That is a peacock performance right there. And IU, a lot has been made of IU working its way here recently back into the NCAA tournament picture, which they are. Now, I would not get too comfortable. And here's why. Because this team seems like that they're playing much better right now because you genuinely have that time of need, whether it's for your outgoing coach or if you're Leal or if you're Galloway, it's for your outgoing you, or if there's recognition with Leal and Galloway and Goody because they're from the Hoosier State. And maybe they do get it a little bit more than somebody else might. Whatever the case, the time of need to continue to win, to get 2 consecutive on the road at Washington on Saturday, and then Eugene coming up later on tonight. You don't want to trip up on Ohio State to close the regular season out. But as of right now, Joe Lunardi, Jerry Palm, Mike DeCourcy have them solidly in the field for the NCAA tournament. You just continue to do what you're doing right now to play at that level and position yourself better, or certainly solidify that. Because you don't want to go in, lose today, go back against Ohio State, have something go haywire there, and then have to depend on having some good fortune in the Big Ten Conference tournament whatsoever. So no. Yeah, take advantage of this. Again, it's going to be tough on the road against a good team in Oregon later on tonight. That's 9 o'clock. Again, your coverage begins. That's 93 WIBC later on tonight. Don and Eric and John underway at 8 o'clock. We're going to have full resources of recap for you coming up on tomorrow's show regarding the Pacers. Dustin DePurak of the Star going to join us coming up tomorrow. We'll recap this Rockets-Pacers game and the outcome. I think Bowen, Kevin's on the show tomorrow. Yeah, Colts free agency. Are we going to be able to tell early and often if things are different, if the pathway, the process, if you will, is different for Chris Ballard when the legal tampering period begins on Monday? Kevin and I talk about that tomorrow. And the voice of the Final Four, you see and hear him on TNT and certainly on CBS. Ian Eagle makes his return to the show. That is coming up tomorrow. So we'll have everything for you across the board on your Wednesday. James, great job out of you. All right, the Colts Daily Updates on the other side, too. We're talking about a lot of the Colts stuff we brought up over the course of the afternoon. And then Pacer pregame. Pat Boylan's got you. Cambridge Fieldhouse, Rockets, Pacers, tip time tonight's at 7 o'clock. You got it right here. Enjoy it. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 3 and explain it to you. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Have a great night.